Yes, I think conscription is unjust and it's also inefficient. So when people are talking about increasing state expenditure for defense, this may have a good justification, but they usually only think about spending more money for equipment and gear, for planes and tanks and things of that sort. And then they leave aside the personnel question. Instead, how much easier to just force it onto a younger element of the population. And I think it's overlooking the real cost that's being borne. Much better to invest also in the human personnel, which means pay soldiers more money, treat them as professionals, and say we're willing to do that. And then what Poland has been doing now is talking about offering voluntary military training for civil defense. And I think that's also quite reasonable. So if an aggressor, we don't know who that would be, the Russian state, if an aggressor were to attack, they would find a population that was ungovernable and unconquerable. And one thing that in Ukraine, when the territorial defense, which was entirely voluntary, stepped up, they found that there were people behind trees and shooting out of windows at them. And in many cases, it was common citizens who stepped up and did that, like in Irpin, for example. The aggressor should understand that every window is going to have a grandmother with an AR-15 or a high-powered rifle pointed at them, and it's going to make them less likely to attack. So civil defense on a voluntary basis, I think, is quite a positive thing. It's a reason why no one has messed with the Swiss for a long time. It's partly because Swiss people have firearms in their homes and know how to use them. That's one thing. Then invest in the personnel for the military and don't only think of expenditures as equipment. Think also of the well-trained soldiers whose job is to protect the nation.
What do you think about the issue of conscripting women? So, for instance, you mentioned Switzerland. Switzerland does have conscription, and they do have a tax on men who do not want to go into service. I think they have to pay like 10% more of income tax. So this is like a clear tax based on gender. But now, for instance, Finland, there's like calls to have women conscripted into the army. I think Denmark already instituted this, as well as Sweden. So what do you think about this issue of like gender inequality when it comes to conscription?
Well, I wouldn't generally think that a better approach if there's an injustice committed against this group is to commit it against another group as well. I don't think that's a better approach. My focus would be on getting rid of conscription and offering more pay and more inducements to be engaged in protection of the country. And that's for women as well. So one of the issues that has seen a positive change is when women have the right to engage in combat roles. There are a lot of women serving in Ukraine. There are a lot of women who are snipers and even involved in infantry units and so on, because it's not just about upper body strength anymore. And people have this mentality that warfare is about upper body strength because that's what medieval and ancient warriors did. They hit each other with sharp pieces of metal. This is not a very important component of modern day defense, and women are able to do that as well. So recruit women and pay them properly and show them respect. It comes out also in other areas. Gay soldiers, for example, gay and lesbian soldiers, there's no reason that they can't be part of the national defense as well. And then the very small number of people, but it's become symbolic. In the US, they're kicking out transgender soldiers, but there's no reason to think that a radar officer is not able to be an efficient radar officer because of the matter of their gender identity. Who cares, really? This is just self-defeating stupidity, in my opinion. And we should have open, equal access that's thoughtful and that's focused on defense. But no, I don't favor conscripting women. I'd like to instead change the policy to pay men and women properly for their service.